Hey guys, it's Carl, and today we finally have non-man versus machine content. As I promised, I would eventually start talking about multiplayer and not just the cooperative side game mode. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Specifically, we'll be talking about a weapon for the engineer that is typically overlooked, but is looked down upon when it is used. I'm of course referring to the Pomson 6000. Now why does the Pomson 6000 get so much slack thrown its way while also never being used by anyone, except for newer players who are enticed by unlocks? Well, before we do this, we should probably look at the weapon's stats, as it's kind of difficult to make arguments against a weapon that you know nothing about. The Pomson 6000 stats are as follows. No ammo is required to fire this weapon, and projectiles cannot be reflected. With this, you also drain Medic's Ubercharge, as well as Spy's Cloak up to 10% and 20% respectively. When it states up to, this means that there is a limited range that the Pomson's projectile can actually drain the Uber or Cloak. The fall-off itself starts at about 512 hammer units, and slowly begins draining less and less before not draining any Uber or Cloak at all, which occurs at roughly 1536 hammer units. And the drawbacks of the Pomson are that you lose 2 of your maximum shots, as well as only dealing 20% damage to all buildings. Now this may be nice and all to know, but what in the world is a hammer unit? Well, a hammer unit according to the official Team Fortress 2 wiki is approximately 1/16 of a foot or 1.904 centimeters. With this, we can estimate that the fall-off begins a little bit less than 10 meters and completely stops after about 29.2 meters. Just do some basic distancing in your head and you can come to the conclusion that for its main ability to drain Cloak and Uber, you'll need to be up close. Now being up close with your enemies wouldn't be an issue if this thing was actually a shotgun, but unfortunately it's not. It is, quote, an indivisible particle smasher, which basically means it just fires lasers out at the end of the barrel. Now people often say that, oh, its hitbox is much too big for the actual size of the laser, and I just have to say that those people are just flat out wrong. Now I'm not going to say that the hitbox is smaller than the laser, no it's not, but people making it out to be way bigger than it really is are just wrong. Now I don't like to throw flack at people because I know that many others may get angry for simply me disagreeing with an opinion, but after doing my own little in-game experiment, I was able to find that the hitbox is only about 4 hammer units bigger than the actual laser, or roughly 7.6 centimeters. Wow, such a difference, I know. On top of this, the projectile itself is very slow moving, meaning that if you're actually hit by it, it's probably your fault since you weren't able to move out of the way fast enough. The only foreseeable way I could actually see it being not your fault is if you're caught in a very tight corner with an engineer, which even then it's probably your fault for getting yourself in that situation anyway. Overall, I'd say this weapon suffers from a similar issue as the direct hit, only with its situation reversed. You miss all of your shots because of the projectile speed, however it's much easier to hit what's right in front of you, which mind you the shotgun does better with much higher damage at close range, much lower damage drop off at medium ranges, an instant hit scan attack that makes it much easier to shoot what's right in front of you, and 2 extra shots. Which makes me wonder, why even use this shitty excuse for a shotgun? Well, the simple answer is that realistically, there is no current use for the Pomson 6000. Any skilled engineer can track down a Cloak Spy, and let's not forget that there is a wrench that lets you do the exact same thing. And in terms of draining Medic's Supercharge, well, if the person that they're healing doesn't just kill you on sight and you actually manage to hit them, good job, keep spamming shots at them and you might just be able to kill them while also making the game less fun for them because they can't use their main ability. What would it be like if someone shot the engineer and took away half of his metal? Yeah, I bet that wouldn't be very fun to play against now, would it? Now, it's quite obvious that when Valve had originally added the Pomson 6000, they intended to add a primary weapon that could help the engineer keep his sentry nest alive. This is because they gave him the ability to drain Medic's Ubercharge, thus preventing any potential threat from pushing in that would be invincible, and also to drain Spy's Cloak, as obviously Spies are going to be a huge issue for the engineer, so taking away his main ability to get away would be an easy way to just kill him off. But of the current configuration with the weapon's super slow moving projectile, it's damn near impossible to actually do what the weapon wants you to do, and you're more likely just to get killed while using it. Because of this, it's probably earned the name for the worst shotgun in the entire game. Okay, I've really only been bashing on this weapon, but that's just because of how bad it is when compared to something else, just like for example stock, which you get for installing the game. Overall, I'd say it's a complete downgrade when compared to it, just due to how slow, inconsistent, and what a self-detriment it is to the engineer. If you're fighting someone else with a shotgun in a 1v1 fight, you better hope to God that they can't aim or that you get a random crit, because you know that with a hit scan weapon you will get destroyed. It's pretty underwhelming when compared to just how many amazing weapons that the engineer has in his arsenal, and when I think people make such a big deal out of the small things such as an Ubercharge drain or the large hitbox, they are just flat out complaining about something that isn't even that bad when you consider of how easily you can kill the engineer when he's using this weapon. Well, I agree that the Ubercharge or Cloak are not fun to play with, especially if you're a skilled player and that you're doing everything in your best ability to to avoid these kind of players, I still personally think that it's your fault if you were to die to this weapon, considering how much of a sitting duck the engineer is with it. Well, Carl, because you seem so self-entitled to constantly talk about the Pomson 6000 and how bad it is, what would be your solution to fixing it? Let's clear all of its stats except for the Cloak to Drain ability, and we modify this instead of Cloak Drain to reveal the spy for at least 2 seconds. This way his cloak is not drained, however it is still much easier to see him. With this, the projectile speed is doubled of its original rate, and you also have the ability to penetrate multiple players. In terms of its downsides, you would still have 2 less shots than stock, and you also give up your chance to gain random critical hits. The new configuration of the shotgun would give the engineer a more long-ranged combat solution, while also retaining the ability to track down cloak spies easier, but not completely shutting down the spy's cloak entirely so he still has the ability to get away. Overall, the Pomson 6000 is just the worst shotgun in the game right now for a variety of reasons. It tries to be a consistent damage dealer while also aiding the engineer's ability to keep his buildings alive, but because other weapons do the job much better, it's just this blend of garbage that tries to be good but fails miserably on multiple aspects. So overall, it's just best being left unequipped and there to gather dust. So that just about wraps up today's video, guys. I hope you learned a thing or two about playing engineer, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.